Hi, everybody. Today is 1,511 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. That's a code red. It was ordered. His murder was ordered. Um, and, it's people from the very beginning have said, no, you can't say that. You have to say apparently, seemingly, maybe. I allege it's an allegation. Um, no, Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. It's confirmed he was murdered on Fort Bliss, and this was a ordered murder, a code red that they say in the military terms. Um, and do I want to say that? I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that at all. I've never wanted to say that. We are at over 4 years. We have absolutely been so patient and have given the leadership every opportunity. Um, and here we are, code red, premeditatedly murdered. Why? What was the motive? Because Richard was collecting information, documenting it, reporting, exposing the criminal activity, the criminal trafficking on Fort Bliss, and extending off of the military installation. And it involved the Walmart mass shooting case. It was connected to the Walmart mass shooting case. And a lot of fraud, a lot of businesses, because in order to have these criminal trafficking networks, you have to have businesses to launder the money, to conduct the business. It's very important to understand, and we're pretty naive. Um, and so that's why these LLCs, I can see everybody now I'm on. Um, that's why it's so important to understand how important the LLCs are, the limited liability companies. They are very, very important in all of this, and connect the individuals from with the network, from the rogue criminal group, from the original response team, and unfortunately, uh, part of our agencies. They're part of our agencies, are leaders in our agencies, and this goes up high. This goes up into the leadership. We know that it goes up to Clem Coward. We know that it goes to Michael Garrett. The evidence is there. The nepotism is there, connecting. You have Germans involved in this whole thing. It's, and law enforcement, and not all of them, I'm just saying, you have individuals that are in very important positions, like, James Courtney Hart at the VA, very important position, access to files like Tavita Nusa, CID agent on Fort Bliss, access to files, can tamper easily, access to cases. Also, DES, Thomas Kane, absolutely involved, and Ogle with the LLCs, and Ogle is CYS director. I mean, I can name so many of these names. Um, of those, Jesus Nieto, the FBI supervisory director, absolutely involved. Bradford Bugado, lieutenant colonel in the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM. You have Nieto's wife, um, Hernandez, Cynthia Hernandez Nieto, in intelligence on Fort Bliss. Then, of course, you have KTSM, those involved in targeting us in KTSM, which is connected to iHeartRadio. And now we've connected iHeartRadio media to all of this with, of course, FitFam El Paso. And you think that, okay, they've got it all. We've got enough. We've had enough for a while. As the family, what do we need to give them in leads? How much do we need to give them in leads? We have given them absolutely plenty to solve this case. We kept it out of cold case, which is that was a feat. We um, received the declaration of death, and we are still working on all of that. This all takes time behind the scenes because of all of these other information exposures, uh, little information. It's so convoluted sometimes, and it comes up like the magistrate court that sitting on the magistrate court is a bunch of masquerading individuals. They're not even authorized to be ruling on a bench, and yet there they are. There they are. And so, if we know this, we have to report this crime. This is huge crime. So, we're not like Leilani Hart, who fails to report or delays to report. As soon as we discover something in our investigation, information comes to us, then we report it because we have to report it. Otherwise, we're implicit in we're just standing there letting it happen, which makes us guilty. So we have to report everything. With John Briggs, when we discovered, and thank you, Team Farm Richard Halliday, for that. When we discovered that he was suing the county of El Paso, and we looked into that and discovered it was a confession, right? It was a confession that he was illegally removed in July of 2022 from the case. And then in August, the next month, lied to Judge Medrano to, also impersonate or masquerade, or it was a charade that he was the prosecuting the Patrick Crusius Walmart case, and lying to cover up, lying to Judge Medrano, lying to Joe Spencer, which I want to get to today. All of these things are happening, and as soon as we find them out, everything about Bill Hicks being a usurper, and reporting it and reporting it and reporting it. And yet, today we had the Patrick Crusius hearing, and we were, watching it closely, trying to understand what was happening. And, it's with the motion that Joe Spencer put out a couple days ago, which is, kind of abnormal because of the timing of it. But what was very interesting is the failure to do their duty. There was so much failure. The lack of integrity in the judicial system, in the criminal judicial system, was very plain to see today, and I'm going to explain that today. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a little bit of breaking news. I think is a little bit of breaking news that is not necessarily Richard's case, but I think that it demonstrates to everyone and illustrates to everyone what we're going through here, and also is corroborating evidence for Richard's case. And that is the case, and I'm going to pull it up because I was just reading. I don't know it off the top of my head. I need to make notes. And it's very, very interesting. It's about the Navy. And her name is Chief Grisel Marrero. And I hope I'm saying that right. Chief Grisel Marrero. Um, this is what happened in the Navy. She's a senior chief, okay? And I'm not so familiar with the Navy like I am with the Army and the Air Force. Um, so I, if anyone out there knows a lot about the Navy, please leave some comments or chime in with the chat. I can see the chat. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Thank you, Danielle, because this is important. She had a Starlink Wi-Fi antenna um, installed on the ship, way up high on the ship. It was unauthorized, and she was, and the ship's name was USS Manchester, and it was in the, uh, was it the South China Sea? Anyway, it was in the China Sea. I didn't write it down in my notes, but they were out at sea and they were near China. And she had this unauthorized antenna installed. And she was charging, she was charging, well, the other chiefs were doing the same thing. But they were charging $1,000 a month to get the Starlink service. hmm Um, and if you don't know about it, like I said, this is something very new. I do not know this all by heart, but it was so important to Richard's case that I had to talk about it before I talk about the Patrick Crusius hearing today. And it's such a breach of trust and a breach of security. And she lied when she got caught or getting close to getting caught. She lied. She lied. She kept it going until she was totally caught. And it wasn't just her. There were other senior leaders that were doing this with her and charging these service members $1,000 a month to get on it. Here it is. They concealed it, this Starlink network, by renaming it a printer drive and denying it its existence. What did she get? This is such a security threat. And what was the motive? Why would a young service member pay $1,000 a month to get internet on a ship? Well, the discussion where I got this information, where it was alerted to me, was for corn. For corn. And I was like, corn? See, this is how naive. I didn't know. It's like Boleyn knew all these terms and she could rattle off all these drugs. And I'm like, ooh, she's a criminal. She's a total criminal. She's only 18. She was a total criminal. She knew that. I didn't know what the heck she was talking about. I didn't know what blow was. This is not my life. This is not my life. To talk about all these drugs, to talk about all these kind of lifestyle things. I normally just minded my own business, my own family. So I've had to learn all these things. Now I know. And now I know what corn is. And all corn is child sex trafficking. Okay? All corn is child sex trafficking. And these sailors that alerted me to this absolutely swore that the service members on that ship would pay $1,000 a month to get corn. They would risk the safety of everyone on that ship. National security, breach it, breach trust, absolutely abuse power for child sex trafficking. Now, you might say, "Oh, Miss Halliday, you're reaching." Nope, I am not reaching. Over 320,000 unaccompanied children are unaccounted for, and they're mostly dead. And over again, I've been alerted to this problem of, well, Lilani Hart admitted to having it in her house, child porn. Oh, sorry, corn, child corn. And worse. And I think that's why I'm shadow banned, because I don't know the words that I'm allowed to say or not allowed to say. I just come on here and I'm just honest with our own Team Find Richard Halliday's own investigation, what we've discovered, and our own opinion. And we're, as the sailor said, expert on our own opinion. And absolutely try to level with everybody and make sure things are confirmed. And I'm telling you that we have a huge problem with leadership. And it corroborates the problem on Fort Bliss, the child trafficking problem, the child corn problem, the business that it creates, $1,000 a month from each service members. That's a whopper. You get 10 service members wanting that, wanting the corn, and you get $10,000 a month. And this was a group of senior leaders. And remember, this was going on in the barracks. We were told this was going on in the barracks, this extortion of the service members. We had it all, we still do, have it all on record. We turned that in to the leadership. In our case, it was Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. He conducted a 15-6. He had to. And they have to do it by law. But then the 15-6 that they conduct is a farce, is a dog and pony show, is just going through the motions, is just a parade. And they come up with these results and they say, "Oh, nothing to see here." And it's like, my dad, we were in that meeting and it was such a farce. And my dad called them out, and I asked, I said, "Well, did you audit their bank accounts?" You should have seen them. They were so upset. So upset. "Oh, but nothing to see here. You're just dreaming." No. Nope. Nope. And time is on our side. Time is revealing their criminal activities, their breaches in national security, their breaches in the trust, their abuse of power, and their code red that they ordered to murder our son, Richard Halliday. Time is on our side. It's all coming out. Now, what do you think that they did with this senior leader that was charging our service members 1,000 to give them corn? Corn meaning grooming them, making the need for child trafficking. That's what that's doing, because all corn is child sex trafficking, because they have to be groomed. So be it 14 years old, 15, 16, be it 8 years old. I've been told in Juarez, the arrests, when they go to a brothel and they arrest, the workers are so young. So young. No, time is on our side, and I guess things have to get really bad for people to understand what's going on, for things to change, for us to understand that God is not impotent against these gates of hell, that even one single person could stand up to these big green machine, these criminals, absolute criminals, that are using our system, our taxpayers' money, because in this case on the Navy ship, they're talking about the money, the way that it was paid for and all of that. You know, the crime just goes on and on and on. It's a domino effect. And so just I'm thinking of Glendon Oakley Jr. I'm thinking of what I need to say with this hearing. And we're just getting started. We're just getting started against this criminal network that wants to profit off of grooming, taking advantage, ruining our country. When you go after the children, you're ruining our country. That's our future. When you're grooming them, when you're trafficking them, when you're abusing them, when you're murdering them, it's like the worst thing. It's disgusting. And Richard, absolutely fought against that. And he didn't do it with emotions. He did it with intent. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. And that's why he was telling me, it's just so bad. It's just so bad. He knew the weight of what he was discovering. He knew the level of crime of what he was reporting. And so let's go back to this Navy lady again. Senior Chief. She was Sailor of the Year. Yeah. And what is her punishment for this? Loss of one rank and move to a different ship. Wow. So if you're a whistleblower, you better watch out, because they're coming after you. and you're lucky if you don't get chopped up. But if you are perpetuating child trafficking with making sure the service members get some corn and charging them $1,000 a pop in the China Sea, somewhere in the China Sea, um, risking national security, absolutely breaking trust and abuse of power, and then lying, you don't have too much to worry about. We've got to change that. We've got to change that. So let's talk about Patrick Crusius, the trial, not the trial. there's no trial date yet. The hearing today. So I worked furious today with Team Fine Richard Halliday to get out our opinions of what we experience, what we know from what happened today. And, I know it by heart. I know it all by heart. So I'll do the best that I can. It's our opinion that taxpayers are really footing the bill for this dog and pony show. Very expensive dog and pony show. It may seem to so many that they have no intent to go to trial, that they are always delay, delay, delay. And you might be right about that, and I think you're right about that. But the problem is that Bill Hicks has no authority to do anything else. He can't do anything except for kick the can. He has no authority. He is a usurper. And the Team Fine Richard Halliday has made sure that everyone in the law enforcement community, especially in the El Paso, but I mean, we're everyone out. I mean, everyone that we absolutely knew to right. Maybe not all the police departments and stuff, but the El Paso Police Department knows this. But I mean, lawyers all over the country, and whoever listens to the live stream, and law enforcement in El Paso, they absolutely know that Bill Hicks is a usurper of the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office. And don't forget, we're part of the SB4 case where we notified everyone in that case. And the judge is like, well, we need evidence. Look, how, it's right there. It's so easy. It's so easy to get the open records. I mean, with something that important, Judge, can't you go look? I'm sure all those civil rights attorneys are going to go look. They just don't want Richard's name on the SB4 case. They don't want Richard's name. They don't want to say Richard's name. And this is what today was all about. Avoiding parading Patrick Crusius and avoiding saying Richard Halliday's name. So let me explain. Number one, this hearing is about Patrick Crusius facing the death penalty. That's what it's about. That's what this is all about. Did he walk into or okay, he was living in San Antonio, Patrick Crusius was, right? Okay, major Hispanic city. I mean, you could throw a stone in any little direction or, whatever, and you can be amongst Hispanics. It is the River Walk. It is the beautiful Hispanic bakeries. It is all of the Hispanic food. It is it's a Hispanic city. That's where he was living. But yet, he wanted to drive 15 hours. Was it 15 hours? 15 hours to El Paso to drive up, make sure, real quick, write the manifesto. Yeah, right. Right. Who wrote that manifesto? Who wrote the manifesto? Who? I'm not saying he is. I am not defending him. Okay? I'm not defending him. Now, if I was defending him, I'd do a lot better job than Joe Spencer. And I don't want to put feathers in my hat because I'm not a lawyer. But let me tell you, this case is so easily uh, put on the table to defend Patrick Crusius. They've mucked up the case so bad with all of their shenanigans that this is a botched case. There's no doubt about it. It's the easiest case to be a Joe Spencer. It's the easiest case to defend Patrick Crusius because the prosecution is so bad. Number one, the DA's a usurper. Number two, so is John Briggs. He was, I don't know if you can call him a usurper, but he admitted that he was pulled off the case and that he pretended to be on the case and lied to Judge Medrano. This is all criminal activity. And yet, we, Team Fine Richard Halliday, we wrote to Joe Spencer, wrote to Judge Medrano, wrote to media, wrote to all of these people, Bill Hicks, you name it. They're in there. I think Felix Valenzuela too, and what's the other guy's name? I don't think we included him. I don't know. I have to ask Rob. But we wrote to all of them. They all know that the individuals on the magistrate court, that was the beginning of Patrick Crusius's case. He was brought initially in front of the magistrate court. He wasn't even read his Miranda rights. His hands were not even bagged. His clothes were clean. His shoes were spick and span. And he was brought in front of individuals that are criminal, that have no authority to make any rulings. And they looked at Patrick Crusius, all spick and span and clean, not even some sweat on his brow. Well, maybe I'm going too far there, but he didn't look like he was sweating. He didn't look nervous. He just went up to the Hispanic law enforcement officer, right? It was like a motorcycle officer. And he raised his hands and says, "It was me. I'm the shooter." Oh, and he conveniently has a manifesto that will absolutely interfere in the election. Absolutely makes this a political shooting. That's what that did. This was for politics. And lo and behold, you've got Loretta Lynn Hewitt and others saying they're playing politics with this case. Over and over again by multiple witnesses that this case is a political case and it's only to be used as a political case. And you've got a usurper, you've got a masquerading individuals that totally makes the magistrate court an illegitimate court. that handles 90% of the cases. You have John Briggs's confession saying he was pulled from the case and he's lying to Judge Medrano to deceive him and Joe Spencer that he's still on the case. And today during the hearing, there's no thank you to the Richard Halliday family for alerting us to all of the misconduct by the prosecution, by the magistrate individuals that are posing, masquerading on the benches there, affecting all kinds of lives. No mention of Richard. None. No mention of John Briggs's confession. No mention of the masquerading. No mention of Bill Hicks being a usurper. No mention. Just a very expensive dog and pony show or a parade. And who was the star of the parade? Patrick Crusius. Let's put on the brightest orange and stripe. Make sure it's striped. Make sure it's orange, orangey, not blue and orange stripes. That would be Blippy. That would give him a favorable, look. We've got to do it orange and white, and we got to put the ankle cuffs on him, the chains. We got to put the chains and then put the handcuffs. And he's dangerous. He's so dangerous. Don't you know he's a shooter? He drove all the way from San Antonio to march in there to, get that photo op. And maybe he shot one or two. I don't know. But let me tell you, he was spick and span. And everyone that I have talked to says they would have bagged his hands. There would have been shells. There would have been blood. It would have been soda. There would have been, stuff on his shoes. Come on. The forensics don't match. And today they paraded him around with body armor on. And it makes me cry because when I think of this, I was thinking of Richard's 45 days of extra duty with full battle gear. And Richard is a total hero. And look what they did. And I'm like, what is going on? I don't want to defend Patrick Crusius but this is the thing. He is facing the death penalty. He's facing the death penalty. That's what they say they want. Of course, I know that they don't have the authority to do that. They're so botched. They're so mucked up, gummed up, whatever you want to call it. They're so evil that they have no authority to even do what they say they want to do. That they are just feeding the public false information and then trying to frame a false narrative, making him look like he's some mass killer. And that in itself is so illegal and wrong. And why? Because he hasn't been convicted in the state court yet. Now, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but that right there is interference with the jury pool. They had him when he was fresh and young with some extra weight on him. I mean, he looked like, he didn't look like he could hurt many people. And even 5 years ago, when they brought him in with a suit, and don't forget, I believe that was after the federal court. I'm not sure. I need to ask. I need to ask my husband. When was that? When was that? Because they brought him in a suit. He didn't hurt anyone. Now they're bringing him in an orange and white striped jumper with orangey shoes and all these chains and armor on, right? We got wow. Wow. What and what's this? Judge Madrano let all the media come in and let it be live streamed. We're going to live stream this parade. We're going to show the whole world. We're going to get all the media in. They can take as many pictures of they want while we parade Patrick Crusius around, making him, taking away all of his due process, all of the presumption of innocence before proving guilty, before we even hear anything, before we even get a jury, This is so illegal. So illegal. And if they're going to do this way, and they're going to do this in the Navy this way, and I'm just saying it corroborates what we're saying, that Richard was a code red, that the leaders ordered it. Because we know, we don't have to say like years ago we had to say, no, he was murdered. No, he was murdered. And people are like, well, I don't know. And there's podcasts. I don't know. Could he be in Mexico? No, he's murdered. Now we have the declaration. Now we have the confirmed he's murdered. Nobody argues that he's murdered unless you're in that criminal rogue group from the original response team with the prime suspects of the murderers of Richard. Otherwise, everybody is absolutely convinced at this point that the declaration of death and the receipts that say he died on Fort Bliss, he was murdered on Fort Bliss, and then all the other evidence that we have. Absolutely, we have a confirmation, and we don't need remains to prove this. We want his remains. I don't like cremation. Now, if you like cremation, that's fine. I don't like cremation. I've never liked cremation. I want my son's remains. And if they cremated him, I want that too. I want my son. And I want accountability for this horrendous, absolutely disgusting, very vile and violent crime, and all of this that they've put us through. And it's not, oh, well, we'll take one rank away. No, we need accountability. And the death penalty needs to be on the table in Richard's case. That lethal injection needs to be on the table. And this dog and pony show, this parade, what they did to Patrick Crusius today, when he has the lethal injection on the table, and people, he might not even know that there is not a chance in hell that it's going to work out unless they are just decide to murder him, which would be unauthorized death penalty. And that's why Bill Hicks, the usurper, can't do anything except for delay. Because if he does anything, and if he gives a death penalty to Patrick Crusius, then he's a murderer, and he can be tried for murder. Because he doesn't have the authority to prosecute Patrick Crusius. There, we have the law for a reason. And just because you want to be, you want to impersonate a district attorney doesn't make you a district attorney. Just because you want to impersonate a judge doesn't make you a judge. We've got so many impersonators, but we have the law. And the law has to be followed and gives you the authority, when it is followed, to carry out the justice or carry out the duties that you're given. That's why we have, this accreditation. All of it is becoming, oh gosh, so violated. And this case is, we have not made it up or picked the Walmart mass shooting case for Richard to be associated with that, to be connected with that, to have reported crimes that are connected to the Walmart mass shooting. We didn't make Dallas Hart Richard's platoon leader. We didn't make Leilani Hart a criminal, a convicted criminal that, was in possession of child porn, and her family's engaged in incest and the sexual assault of a 7-year-old in her bedroom. And more. We didn't do that. She did it. Her family did it. We didn't tell, I don't mention Texas Hart too much, but he was in big trouble. Absolutely. More and more law enforcement are coming out. More and more federal agents are coming to this investigation because it's not cold case. We absolutely know that it is a capital murder case. And so, step by step, we are absolutely moving forward. And they don't want to say Richard's name. They don't want to say Team Find Richard Halliday unless you're an impersonator to intercept information, because more and more people are coming forward. And that's how we know that Yvonne Rosales absolutely knows the Hart family. Absolutely. And this is another really important part that I haven't really stressed. And, there were, in the Walmart case, there's been 3 DAs. Jaime Esparza, who's being attacked right now through this motion by Joe Spencer. And of course, Yvonne Rosales, who is right now the holdover district attorney. She's the rightful legal district attorney right now. And then you have the usurper, Bill Hicks, which he did not install properly, and therefore he is not the district attorney. If you don't turn on the switch, if you do not, sign your statement of officer before your oath of office, you can't walk in the door. He wants his cake and eat it too. He violated the Texas Constitution. So you have these 3, and what is the common denominator? Well, John Briggs. John Briggs under Jaime Esparza, John Briggs under Yvonne Rosales until he was fired, and John Briggs under Bill Hicks. He has a very important role in all of this. And for them not to mention him and his confession and his deception and his violations and his insubordination because they don't want to say Richard's name, that's something to remember. So the other thing that I don't want to forget to mention is Glendon Oakley Jr. He's absolutely coming into the, yes, he's deceased. Yes, he was found in Fort Bliss Barracks, also in his barracks room, deceased in April of 2020. And but he's being investigated again. His death is being investigated again. And we are very what's the word? Relieved that he's not in, being swept under the rug. So we've worked very hard to bring this all out, and it makes us relieved that we've accomplished that. So pray for the family of Glendon Oakley Jr. I can't even imagine what they're going through. My heart goes out to them. My prayers go out to them. And to see how they paraded Patrick Crusius, I mean, I think, it's kind of like they're trying to pull on heartstrings here for me, because I absolutely know that he has a severe mental health condition, which, and also autism. And I worked with individuals with autism, with severe mental health conditions, and they're very easily manipulated, used. It's like the unaccompanied minors, right? And he was so young. And I, have to remind myself, the federal court found him guilty, sentenced him to the Alcatraz of the Rockies, 1,000-year sentence, a 1,000-year sentence. But when I saw him today, he looked pretty bad to me. Look how skinny he was. And with those chains on him, we are so inhumane. So inhumane. And they are still, in my opinion, they're still using him for politics. For politics. And to me, the additional shooters or the real murderers in the Walmart case are at large. Yeah. So pray that we get resolution on that, because if that is resolved, Richard's case will also be broken and be resolved, and vice versa. And so thank you for coming on so late. We're burning the midnight oil again. But it's been a really busy time, which means things are happening behind the scenes, which is a really good news, not just for our case, but for the military, for our service members, for El Pasoans, for people that live across the border in Juarez. I don't know how far the implications of all this goes. So, yeah, it's good news. It's bad news for the criminals that like to buy. Look, if you're young, soldier, stay away from the corn. It's a trap. It's a trap. Go find yourself a beautiful partner and get married and have a lovely time. Stay away from the corn because all corn is child sex trafficking. That's my little advice. Um, take it or leave it. But I don't know how you would live with yourself when you know the truth that hundreds, really hundreds of thousands of children, unaccompanied, alone, trafficked, used and abused, and are now mostly dead. For what? Corn? Stay away from corn. Okay, thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.